I'm actually from two countries. I'd say UK being one of them, and then the Seychelles. I went to school at East Acton Primary School. I think my love for architecture began there. We used to basically redesign our streets in plan form. So, we'd recreate our walk to school. And then I had to go to Seychelles. It was a quick decision by our parents. They weren't here really as, to settle. They were here to study. I lost my father when I was 15. That led me to leaving school at 15, and I then returned to the UK. That was then the hardest part, because I guess I had lost, between leaving and returning to school, I lost a major part of education. I started to see that I was never going to make my dream come true of becoming an architect. What I ended up doing when I came back to London, I was like, well, I need to get back into school. I got myself back in, and I needed a job because I had no money. But it was affecting my studies because I was working all the time. So I went through a really long route. One thing I can say is, if you really believe in something, don't lose that dream. There is not just one way to get into architecture. So that was a real help for me when I went to art school. They were like, well, don't really know about architecture, but why don't you do graphic design? Or why don't you do this? So I really focused on those things. I then got into university through going through the art route. When I went to do my part 2, which is another stage, actually I got this job, fascinating, a friend got me in there, and I was building models, and I only had a job for 2 weeks. I ended up being there for 7 years, which is amazing because, I got to know them and they liked what I was doing. And they're like, look, you've got to work here. And what happened, we would go to the pub every week, and 2 architects were leaving, and the big boss came. We'd had a few drinks, and he was like, right, those 2 architects have left. Do you want a school? I was like, yeah, I can do it. And the next morning he said, remember what you said last night? Well, you can start today. And I was thrown in. I wasn't even what you can count yourself as an architect, because you can only call yourself an architect once you've done the whole thing. I couldn't call myself an architect. And my boss was like, well, you've got to start it now. And I was in 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 5, just to get myself to the level to understand. I really wanted to know everything. It was all consuming. I lost loads of weight. I was always stressed, but I learned so much. I think those responsibilities just makes you stronger. And if you take it with your hands grabbing to it and do the work and get through it, the next one, you're like, why am I not stressed out about this one? Because it's not supposed to be just stressy. It's supposed to be fun. I started Kristopher Adialade Architecture about 4 years ago now. And that was the first project I got, which was a 9-unit scheme in London, Hanwell. And myself and the client spent so much time together on it. It was amazing. It was that kind of dream scenario where you've got a client who really answers all the questions that you ask. He gives you a brief, you design that brief, you return that design, he loves that design, you go together and get that delivered. Why I'll say it's amazing, you spend a lot of time creating things which are about this big, and you think it's going to be that big. But then when it gets built, it's reality, it's full scale. So you work to scale designing something which is going to be much bigger. So once you start to see your concept become a design and then design become the building, there's nothing much, better than that. Well, if I could change anything about how, my life has been led, I would probably say it's continuity and being in a place for a bit longer. Because I think when you're chopping and changing and going to different places, you don't settle very well. I think we should not regret, we should reflect, kind of not be worried about how life has become. It's more what you're going to make with the future of it, really. You go through this process meeting people who will look down at you thinking they're better than you. And to be honest, they're not better than you. If you allow them to think they're better than you, then they are. If you don't believe they are, then they're not. Don't allow yourself to be held back by what other people think. If you've got a passion, there'll be somewhere somehow that you can get through and do it. And you have to believe, but you have to also work hard. It won't be on a plate.